talk about you spending on other things. We got it back, let's pay down the debt.
Well, and that's why that language was put in specifically so it wouldn't become. And we have to be very vigilant to make sure that the little shell game isn't played where you sit there and say, well, we gave the money back to the Treasury and then took money out of the Treasury. And that's why the watchdog of Geithner right now are the Treasury. We need to watch for that. Because, the gentleman in the blue coat.
I'll try to make this shortly, but for example, today on Fox News website, the headline is Obama is rewriting the health bill. Talking about this summit that you guys are supposed to go to. Why? Are you even going to go to that? And under separation of powers, maybe I misunderstand things, but why is the president rewriting this health bill? And if he forces it upon us when maybe 90% of the American public, not necessarily the voting public, but they're against it, they want you to rewrite it. If he crams this down our throat, will you support a resolution for impeachment?
That is not a high crime for this committee. Presidents have always been involved in the development of legislation. Constitutionally, they cannot introduce the legislation. It takes a member of Congress to do that. The information I'm receiving is a little different from the article that you just mentioned. It's that Nancy Pelosi, Speaker Pelosi and Majority Leader Reid have already reached an agreement amongst them. And I don't know if that's true or not. You're shaking your head, but that's what the information that we're
That's
and there's no doubt that the president, people were involved in those discussions, just like probably every president back to Washington has had somebody involved in that. I'm going to go with Bob and then you.
Okay.
I may even let you close because you're entertaining.
and I'm not, right?
You said it, Bob.
Yes, I don't know if it was the great philosopher Edmund Burke or perhaps even Saul Alinsky, but somewhere, and could have been someone else.
Wow, those are two different.
Yeah, isn't that different? Yeah. But somewhere along the line, we're talking about spending and what should the government do. Somewhere along the line, I read a line that said, there is not always a political solution to every problem.
Yeah, that's a good point.
What does that leave you with then?
Saying that leave government out of what's going on here, and everyone is saying the same thing, basically. What's the federal government doing for me? It's either one or the other. We're either going to have the federal government helping out where it's required, or where they think it's required, or we're not going to have anything at all. And then all you people that are on Social Security and Medicaid, forget about it. It's an entitlement. You put in so many dollars, and you're getting back God knows how many times more than that. But that's the way we set up the system. And we're trying, and the people are trying to work with that. But if all you're doing is saying, let someone else foot the bill for something else, that's what the problem is. Everyone is not taking responsibility. The people in this room aren't, and neither are people in the House or the Senate. And then the other thing is you say, well, Obama isn't doing it or isn't leading, and then you hear this on Fox News that says he's coming up with a bill to submit. Which is it?
It is.
Are we going to have, is it one story or the other?
Point is, Lee, it is Obama's bill.
But he's the President of the United States. He has to come up, you want him to come up with a solution. He was elected on that premise.
I'm actually going to not take your argument, but my perspective, this came out of Nancy Pelosi's office. There's no doubt that the president's folks were in conversations, but I call it the Pelosi bill because it came directly from her office to the House floor, even after we had a 50 hours of debate in committee. When it was reported out of committee, she just took it and rewrote it.
Well, I did forget to mention about the attaching it to the military budget bill or the budget bill.
Yeah.
And passing it so-called under reconciliation with only 51 votes instead of the majority.
We'll see if they can do that. Pat?
I just wanted to, I spent a good portion of my life in banking, and what you said about banking and the loans with small businesses is exactly what's happening. But beyond that, you know, you look to SBA for a solution. We guarantee those dollars that go to SBA. We guarantee, you just passed a bill to allow the government to expand their debt limit to $12 billion. Trillion. 12 trillion, excuse me. Yes, billion here, billion here. But we just passed a bill to allow the government to expand the debt to $12 trillion.
14.2 trillion.
But what we have not recognized is the fact that because we wanted the government involved in housing, we've got $6 trillion worth of Fannie Mae and other debt out there that really is a debt of this country that's not even included in that $12 billion. We tried to solve the problem of poverty in the 60s with the great war on poverty, and it did solve it. We want more health care for everybody, but we got a Medicare system that's been with us since the 60s that's going to go bankrupt. There's a certain point where we just can't afford, I'd suggest, to do more and more with everybody's dollars. And with that said, I just want to say one thing. It takes a lot of guts to stand here, and I appreciate that because I know there are others like Ben Nelson that won't. So thank you for being here.
A lot of the, yes. There's more hands that have come up, and I apologize to you.
You said you were
very accessible office. Just call us. I'm going to let you close.
Oh, it's not it blowing off. I just so that you don't leave this building with this notion. In 1975, in a labor dispute, the Supreme Court has decided that hospitals that describe themselves as not-for-profit were in fact for-profit hospitals and therefore subject to the Fair Labor Standard practices. And since that time, they have all been considered for-profit hospitals. It doesn't matter if they've got a religious whatever affiliation to
Well, I'm
them.
just going
They're
by what
making
they
money.
told me is that they were not.
I worked for ASME at the time. I know the law really well.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. This was a great discussion.